Hello friends, here are some Hardy-weinberg equilibrium problem sets. Before we solve these questions, first we will know what is Hardy-weinberg equilibrium. If there are only two alleles in a population, then P plus Q is equal to 1. What is P? P is the frequency of dominant allele. And Q is the frequency of recessive allele. So, the sum of the frequency of dominant allele and the frequency of recessive allele must be equal to 1 according to the Hardy-weinberg equilibrium. And this is also P square plus 2PQ plus Q square is equal to 1. Here, the P square is the frequency of dominant genotype. The P is the frequency of dominant allele here, and here P square is the frequency of dominant genotype, and like this 2PQ is the frequency of heterozygotes. Heterozygotes means there are two alleles, one dominant and one recessive, and this is the frequency of recessive genotype. Sum of these must be equal to 1. Then we will solve the problems. In first question, if 9% of an African population is born with a severe form of sickle cell anemia, then what percentage of the population will be more resistant to malaria because they are heterozygous for the sickle cell gene? First, 9% of an African population is born with severe form of sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is caused by recessive alleles. Recessive allele. Here we denote it through small s. So 9% is equal to small s means the frequency of the recessive genotype. Then Q square is equal to 9%. Here then Q is equal to under root of 9 upon 100. And what is Q? Q is the frequency of recessive allele is equal to 3 upon 10 is equal to 0.3. We will find P. From Hardy-weinberg equilibrium, P plus Q is equal to 1. Then P is equal to 1 minus Q is equal to 0.7. It is the frequency of dominant allele, that is capital S, capital S. Frequency of dominant allele, that is S, and this capital S is frequency of dominant genotype. When we have to find this, then we have to square P square. Then we find capital S, that is genotype. So P square is equal to 0.7 square is equal to 0.59, that is genotype frequency of normal gene, capital S, capital S. Q square, as we know, Q is the frequency of recessive allele, and Q square is equal to the genotype frequency of recessive gene, that is sickle cell. Sickle cell is caused by recessive gene. Here only 9% that is recessive genotype is given. So from the Hardy-weinberg equilibrium, we will find P. Then 2PQ is equal to 0.42. Genotype frequency of heterozygous gene, that is the carrier of sickle cell. We have to find this heterozygous. Then this is 2PQ. 2PQ is heterozygous. Next question. In next question, if brown fur coloring is dominant to grey fur coloring mice and we have 168 brown mice in a population of 200 mice, then we have to find the predicted frequency of heterozygotes, frequency of homozygous dominant, frequency of homozygous recessive. What is given in this question? Brown mice is given 168. The number of brown mice is 168. So the alleles responsible for the brown mice is capital B. The genotype for brown color may be capital B or capital B small b. So we can't find frequency of allele from this. So we have to find first recessive allele. Recessive. Then which is recessive? Grey mice is recessive. So total mice is 200 and brown mice is 168. So we have 32 grey mice. And grey is recessive, that is equal to Q square. Yani frequency of predicted genotype of recessive allele. Genotype of recessive genotype. This is recessive genotype. So Q square is equal to 0.16. So Q, frequency of recessive allele Q that causes grey fur is equal to 0.4. From Hardy-weinberg equilibrium we can calculate the P, that is the frequency of dominant allele, is equal to 0.6. The frequency of dominant homozygous is equal to P square is equal to 0.6 is equal to 0.36. And the frequency of recessive homozygous is equal to Q square is equal to 0.4 chi square is equal to 0.16. And frequency of heterozygotes is equal to 2pq, that is 0.48. So the predicted frequency of heterozygotes is equal to 0.48 and the frequency of homozygous dominant, that is 0.36, and the frequency of homozygous recessive is 0.16. Okay, thank you.